Hey everyone, welcome back to Create TV, and in case this is your first time watching, I'm Theo. My brother Manny won't be joining me in this video, so please excuse us. This is actually going to be a video mostly just me drawing Velocity, showing the design process, and discussing, I guess, some of the design inspiration for Velocity, what we intended to do with him in this, in the overall design. When we were creating the character, he was mostly supposed to be iconic in a way that was simple, which is why the whole blue and black and white motif, it's very clear cut, very simplified compared to most of the heroes that we see nowadays. Kind of taking things back to, I guess, original how characters in comic books used to be designed. Very simplistic and very I don't want to say polished, but just simplistic. That's the best way to put it. When we designed the character, we wanted him to look a certain way because he's very youthful, because he's still just a teenager. We designed the character to be a teenage superhero. Pardon the lisp there. Basically, when we created the character, he's young. He starts off completely inexperienced, trying to figure out who he is in the world, and then suddenly he's given these unique abilities. And of course, at first he's just kind of panicking, but the important part to note is that he uses his powers and chooses to use them for good. And because of this, he has to wear a disguise like all superheroes do. And his outfit had to be something that he could just throw together. And he basically he would create a design for himself that would be easy to buy the materials for if you were going to. And granted, it's just a comic book character, so there's no real science behind his outfit design. It's just spandex basically, but with comic book origins thrown in. But one of the things that we found important about his design was that we wanted him to look youthful, young. Right now there's not a lot of young heroes out there that people can look up to, and well, we're not looking to really inspire anyone in terms of, like, we don't expect anyone to be inspired by the character. We just want to tell good stories involving a superhero who overcomes challenges, who's young, and basically showing that it doesn't matter what age you are, you can be a hero too. It's not about simply trying to create some kind of agenda. We're just trying to create a character and tell a story. And we're hoping that people will enjoy how we came about the design. When my brother was designing it, he actually was the one that first came up with the design concept. But he came up with the concept, and because I had more experience in drawing the shapes and forms of certain things, and knowing how to use the tablets. The tablet that I have is a very cheap one. It's not professional by any means. We're just trying to do what we can with what we have. The idea behind the character was essentially supposed to be that he struggles with a lot of things because he is scientifically minded, but he's young, and so people will never value quite everything he has to say. He's very much trying to overcome these challenges, and then the challenge of hiding his powers from those who are around him, but still trying to just simply be a teenager. And I guess it's kind of a callback to many different teenage heroes, because there's nothing really original under the sun. Everything has been done, but the fact is, we missed seeing this in comic books recently. Everything nowadays has been about filling some kind of quota, and I feel like characters need to just be that, just characters. They are meant to simply be creative, fun, entertaining, and really an escape from the mundane life, especially in comic books. And his adventures are going to be very vast, because it's not just going to take place in one location. It's going to take place throughout different parts of the universe and other realities and dimensions and universes. It's the whole point behind this character is that he's going to have many adventures aside from just being in one place stagnant. He's not a protector of one city. He protects many parts of the world and protects people wherever he goes. But there are things that he has to struggle with, and we're hoping to really capture it in this, this process of development when we're developing a character. we haven't fully written down everything. We've mostly written down the story for the first origins of how he got his powers, and we have things planned for how he's going to go progressing into each chapter or each book, each issue of our comic books that we produce. But it's going to take time, and we're hoping that we're able to release it as soon as possible. We're not trying to begin with. The first issue is going to be free. We're not looking to make money off of the first issue. We want to make money soon, sure, but for now, we're going to focus on getting people to read the comic book, to get an understanding of who he is. Kind of like a Velocity Year One type thing. That's the important part of his story. Oh, and pardon the noise in the background. This my grandma washing dishes. Software being used right now is mostly just Pinup. That's one of the things that we're using currently. Pinup, and also I think it's called Isbis, and I also use Blender for certain poses and things like that. But currently, we don't use a lot of software to create these things. We also use Second Life as our main platform. Second Life is a virtual world platform for those who don't know, and those who do, well, shout out to all you Second Life users. The important part to know about Second Life is you can create your own character in there. And to begin with, I was never very good at drawing poses or drawing characters. I know how to draw them, but it's capturing the pose. Like, I know anatomy, but I don't know how to capture the pose quite well. I can't see it in my head. I have a difficult time visualizing it. But I can visualize a scene. I can visualize a character and its placement, but how to draw it and draw what I see in my head, sometimes it just does not come out the way I was hoping. So I use Second Life to take a picture and essentially get the pose that I want, and then I'll draw how I see the muscles in my head based on what I know about anatomy. And so I use Second Life essentially for that, as a posing software. And I also use it as a community outreach program, a way to meet new people, not outreach, but basically it's a way to meet new people who are interested in superheroes and comic books, and generally be able to dress up as our own characters. We get to wear our characters' outfits in Second Life and get to explore different places of existence. You get different cities, different planets, different places to explore. And because of this, there's many opportunities to meet new people, to find out what they like, find out what their interests are in comic books, what they prefer the characters to look like. But mostly it's just to be able to show off our character designs. It's a great way to show them off. And we're really trying to create these characters and try to develop these stories about heroism and the importance of responsibility, and taking responsibility for your own actions, the consequences of messing up, but also realizing that no one's perfect. So when you mess up, you get to rise above that. So these characters have these stories that involve consequences, truth, justice, and all the classic attributes of a hero. And that's what we want to capture really in every aspect of our character development, and just generally what we plan on doing going forward. Pardon the noise in the background. If you hear a lot of noise, it's just dishes being washed, and also the air conditioner is blasting right now because it's hot. It's just burning hot in here. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about comic books for a little bit. My interest in comics, I should say, where it stems from currently has really always stemmed from my grandfather. My grandfather was a huge fanboy of Superman and Spider-Man, and in fact he had the first issue of Superman, the Action Comics #1. Granted, I didn't know how much it was worth at the time. I wasn't very smart, and I sold it years later, but for like $50, which is like the worst decision. It might have been a reprint, but who knows? I could have been a good deal, maybe not. All I know is that it was an important comic book to him, but I didn't value it at the time. But after I spoke to him, he was okay with it. He said the important part was that I showed some kind of interest in it eventually. But when it comes to Superman and all that, I had a huge obsession with him. I had an obsession with him eventually because of the fact that I grew up with the notion. I was raised to believe in a lot of the standards that he represented, and trying to live up to those things is impossible, but it's the attempt. It's trying to do good, trying to strive for truth and justice in all aspects of life. And you know, I wanted to capture this even in the comic books that we create. And when it comes to other characters like Spider-Man and all that, my first interest when it came to Spider-Man, I was probably when I was about 10 years old or 9. It's hard to remember exactly what year. It was the day. All I know to the day is that it was the moment when the Spider-Man movie first came out, the one with Tobey Maguire. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie was easily my favorite movie, and I think I saw it 3 times when it first came out in theaters, actually, and it was just, I don't know, just something about it affected me deeply. It was something about it. Let's just say it ignited the spark that I suddenly was interested in comic books. And before that, however, I was already drawing my own short stories and creating them into small little booklets before I even picked up a comic book. In my head, I thought, this is such an original idea. It's because I had never been to a comic book shop. There were none in my area at the time, so I didn't really know, or no one really in my family looked to go to comic book shops except for my grandfather. And my grandpa, he didn't spend his money wisely, so he didn't always go to comic book shops or have the money to go to comic book shops. And not just that, but most of the ones that were in his area were not really the best for people like him. He's elderly and Hispanic, and the issue is many of the people in those places, they're spiteful towards anyone they were very, I guess, if they seemed new to comics, or if they seemed like they were not up to speed internet wise, that they treated them like they were outcasts. And so my grandfather was very discouraged from those kind of things, and I think ultimately he felt that it was childish to like comic books. But in the end, he spoke to me about everything comic book related all the time. We played with action figures. We would hang out and draw. We would draw our own characters even back then. In fact, one of the characters that we developed, his name is Helix. It was one I developed when I was about 10 or 12 years old. Anywhere between 10 to 12, I was about when I created the character, and he was heavily inspired by my grandfather, my grandpa. He was heavily inspired by him because my grandpa always felt like he was frail and unable to play with me like the way he wanted to. He liked sports, he liked doing physical activities, but he was old, so he got tired all the time. And he felt weak, but I told him, in my mind, you are strong, you're mighty like any other superhero, because I thought he was an amazing person, because he inspired me to do things that no other kid would be told, yes, you can do this. Like, he told me I could be a comic book artist, and so I wish I had listened to him more and while he was still here. But I think he, in the end, inspired me to do the things that I was called to do. He inspired me to create these characters. I know that he inspired my brother, and if my sister got to meet him, she would have loved him too. Some of the projects that we've been working on actually are derived from when we were kids, and things that we never thought that we could actually make, because we didn't have the resources and we didn't have the time, really. Life always gets in the way, but we're now fighting to make sure these things get made, that we can create these things, because we have faith that these projects will succeed. We've just started. We're just now getting started, and we're hoping to continue to grow and continue to inspire others to do the same. Granted, we know right now our channel has a meager amount of numbers, literally the smallest amount you can get for a starting channel, but we know that it's possible to grow, that we will be able to create art that inspires others and simply is original, or as original as it can be. For us, it's just our favorite work. We hope to create what inspires us, and we hope that what inspires us will inspire others to be creative and be able to share their own designs as well. Well, everyone, thanks for joining me on this journey. This channel is new, and we hope to grow as me and my family create new art and hopefully inspire others to do the same. Have a good day, and please subscribe and ring that bell icon for notifications about new videos. And if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. See you soon.